I'm Marlene Thompson, 67 years old, and happily retired from my 30-year career as a high school librarian. Last Sunday's family dinner at my son Robert's house changed everything. While passing the mashed potatoes, my 12-year-old granddaughter Lily slipped a folded note into my hand. I opened it under the table. "Pretend you're sick and get out of here. Please. Emergency." I glanced at her terrified face and instantly clutched my chest. "I need to go home," I gasped. Robert jumped up to drive me. As we left, I spotted two men watching the house from a black sedan. Before I continue this shocking story, where are you watching from today? If you're enjoying this true family drama, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more incredible stories of survival and betrayal. How would you react if your grandchild passed you a desperate note like this? Let me know in the comments as I reveal what happened next. Robert drove silently, casting worried glances my way as we pulled away from his suburban home. His knuckles were white against the steering wheel. "Mom, are you sure you're okay? Should we go to the emergency room?" I waited until we were several blocks away before pulling Lily's note from my pocket. "I'm fine, Robert. But your daughter isn't. She gave me this." Robert pulled over abruptly, took the note, and read it. His face transformed from concern to anger to horror in seconds. "What the hell?" He slammed his hand against the dashboard. "Why would she? Oh God. Robert, tell me what's going on right now." I used my no-nonsense librarian voice, the one that had quieted rowdy teenagers for decades. He ran his hands through his graying hair, a gesture so reminiscent of when he was a troubled teenager himself. "It's Patricia's brother, Dean. He's gotten himself involved with some dangerous people. I didn't want to worry you." "Well, I'm worried now," I said. "What does this have to do with Lily passing me secret notes?" Robert took a deep breath. "Dean convinced Patricia to hide some money and documents at our house. Temporarily," she said. "Just until things cool down." I argued against it, but you know how Patricia is about her family. I did know. My daughter-in-law's loyalty to her troubled brother had been a source of tension throughout their 20-year marriage. "These men, they're coming to collect tonight. I thought I had more time to figure this out." Robert's voice cracked. "I never thought they'd come when the kids were home. And those men in the car outside your house? Must be them. They're early." His face paled. "Mom, you need to go home and stay there. I'll handle this." I reached over and gripped his arm. "If you think I'm leaving my family in danger, you don't know me at all. Mom, these aren't neighborhood vandals or school bullies. These are dangerous people who—" "I'm not asking permission, Robert. I'm telling you I'm helping." I pulled out my cell phone. "Now, we need advice. I'm calling Judith." "Your friend, the secretary?" "My friend who works for Judge Wilson, who has seen enough criminal cases to know what we're dealing with." Robert drove while I spoke to Judith, explaining just enough for her to understand the urgency. She confirmed my suspicions if these men were who we thought they were. The danger was real. "We need to get your family out of there," I said after hanging up. "Without making these men suspicious." Robert nodded. "Patricia can gather the kids. Say they're going to the store for ice cream. Then just keep driving to a hotel. And leave you alone with them? No. Mom, they're not going to hurt an old woman," I said firmly. "And if they're watching the house, they might get suspicious if everyone leaves. We need a better plan." For the next 15 minutes, we strategized. Robert would return, saying I was feeling better, and insisted on coming back. We would find a way to get a message to Patricia, then work together to get the children to safety. Once they were secure, we could handle the documents and money. Judith said not to give them anything, I reminded Robert. Once they have what they want, they have no reason to leave witnesses. The gravity of the situation settled over us as we turned back toward the house. "I never thought," Robert began, his voice tight. "I told Patricia her brother was bad news, but I never imagined it would come to this. Family is complicated," I said, thinking of my own difficult history. "But right now, we focus on protecting yours." Before we arrived, I made one more call to my neighbor Harold, a retired police officer who lived in my building. If things went badly, we would need backup that wouldn't ask questions first. As we parked behind the black sedan, Robert turned to me. "Promise me you'll be careful, Mom." I nodded. the weight of what we were walking into suddenly very real. I promise. Now let's go save your family. Robert and I took a few minutes in the car to prepare. I grabbed an emergency bag I always kept in the trunk. Old habits from my years as a single mother never quite died. It contained basic first aid supplies, flashlights, and other essentials. Robert texted Patricia, "Mom feeling better. Coming back with her. Urgent. Be casual. Visitors?" Her response came quickly. 2 men. Dean's business associates. Waiting for him. I sent Harold a text with Robert's address and the message we'd previously agreed upon. Library books overdue. Might need help collecting. Harold would understand the code. Be ready. But don't come unless called. We walked up the driveway with forced casualness. Robert's hand at my elbow wasn't just for show. My knees were actually shaking. "Remember," he whispered, "you're feeling better." "Just a little dizzy spell." I nodded, straightening my spine and fixing a pleasant expression on my face. 67 years of life experiences had taught me how to wear masks when necessary. Patricia answered the door with a too bright smile. "Marlene, feeling better?" We were so worried. Behind her stood a tall man in an expensive suit, his dark eyes evaluating me coldly. Another man, broader and with a poorly concealed shoulder holster, lingered in the hallway. "Just a little spell," I said, patting Patricia's hand. I insisted on coming back. Couldn't miss dessert with my grandchildren. Patricia's eyes darted nervously to the men. "Marlene, these are associates of Dean, Victor and—" "I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name." The second man didn't offer it. Victor stepped forward with a practiced smile that never reached his eyes. "Mrs. Thompson, is it? Good to see you're feeling better." Your son was quite concerned. There was something in his tone, a subtle emphasis suggesting he didn't believe my illness had been real. Robert guided me into the living room where my 3 grandchildren sat unnaturally still on the sofa. Lily's eyes widened when she saw me, relief washing over her face momentarily before she composed herself. "Grandma's back." 9-year-old Max ran to hug me, and I held him perhaps a little too tightly. "Where's Dean?" Robert asked Patricia, his voice carefully controlled. "On his way," she replied. "He texted that he'll be here soon." Victor checked his watch. He'd better be. I settled on the sofa between Lily and 7-year-old Emma, giving Lily's hand a quick squeeze. She slipped me another note, which I palmed discreetly. "Well, while we're waiting, why don't we have that dessert?" I suggested brightly. "I believe Patricia mentioned chocolate cake?" "Great idea," Robert agreed quickly. "Kids, help your mom in the kitchen." The unnamed man shifted, blocking the hallway. "The children can stay here." I felt Lily stiffen beside me. A quick glance at the new note in my palm confirmed my fears. "They have guns. Dad is scared." "Nonsense," I said with all the authority of my former profession. "These children have been sitting too long already, and I need my medication with food. Patricia, dear, I'll help you." I stood, gesturing for the children to follow. Victor looked to his companion, who gave a slight nod. Permission granted. How generous. In the kitchen, Patricia moved mechanically, cutting cake while the children gathered plates and forks. I positioned myself so the men couldn't see my face from the doorway. "We need to get the children out," I whispered to Patricia. "These men are dangerous." "I know," she whispered back, her hands trembling. "Dean promised they would just talk. He didn't say anything about guns or—" "Mom," Robert interrupted quietly, joining us. "We need to implement the plan now. Lily, when we go back in, I want you to complain about homework. I'll suggest you all work upstairs." Lily nodded solemnly, far too understanding for a 12-year-old. We carried dessert back to the living room, performing our family dinner charade while danger loomed. Victor accepted a piece of cake and watched us with predatory interest. The other man declined, never taking his eyes off the exits. "So, Mrs. Thompson," Victor said casually, "what exactly was wrong with you earlier? You seem remarkably recovered." I could feel Robert tense beside me, but I'd been handling difficult patrons for decades. "Low blood sugar, most likely. Happens at my age. 1 minute you're fine, the next you're dizzy." The drive and some crackers in Robert's car did wonders. I smiled warmly at him. Do you have parents still living, Victor? The personal question threw him slightly, as I'd intended. My mother, yes. Then you understand how we seniors can be. 1 minute a medical emergency. The next right as rain. Drives my children crazy. Victor didn't smile back. Indeed. The doorbell rang, startling everyone. The silent man moved to answer it, hand inside his jacket. A moment later, Dean walked in, looking significantly less polished than when I'd last seen him at Christmas. His eyes were bloodshot, his designer clothes wrinkled. Patricia, he said, ignoring everyone else. We need to talk. Now. As Patricia rose, Victor's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. Actually, he said, we all need to talk. Right now. Victor's phone call seemed to change everything. The pretense of a casual business meeting evaporated as he nodded to his silent companion, who moved to check the windows. Children, I said firmly, why don't you go upstairs and start your homework? Adults need to talk. To my surprise, Victor agreed. Yes. The children should go upstairs. Far too many. Distractions down here. Robert caught my eye, a silent warning passing between us. This wasn't part of our plan. The children would be isolated upstairs, away from us. Actually, Robert countered, they can use the basement playroom. Better workspace down there. Victor considered this, then nodded. The basement had fewer exit points, but it also had the storm door that led to the backyard, something I hoped Victor didn't know. As the children gathered their things, I asked Patricia to show me where the bathroom was a transparent excuse to speak privately, but no one stopped us. In the hallway, I gripped her arm tightly. Patricia, what have you gotten this family into? I hissed. Her composure cracked. I didn't know it would be like this. Dean said it was just paperwork, just holding some documents. He's my brother, Marlene. Those men aren't here for paperwork. They're here for something valuable and dangerous enough to threaten children over. Tears welled in her eyes. It's worse than Robert knows, she whispered. I didn't just hide things for Dean. I helped move money through accounts. Just a few times, when Dean was desperate, the floor seemed to tilt beneath me. You laundered money? I didn't think of it that way. Dean said it was just helping his business partners avoid unnecessary taxes. I have accounting experience. It was easy to set up the transfers. Patricia, I was trying to help him. Her voice broke. Our parents always protected him, and when they died, that responsibility fell to me. You don't understand what it's like to be the only one who can save your family. As a widow who'd raised Robert alone after his father died, I understood more than she knew. Did you use your family's accounts? Are Robert and the children implicated? She couldn't meet my eyes. Some transfers went through our joint account. Dean said it would look more legitimate that way. Does Robert know this part? No. The admission was barely audible. Please don't tell him. Not yet. Let me fix this first. Before I could respond, Dean appeared in the hallway. There you are, he said to Patricia, ignoring me completely. We need to talk, now. Dean pulled Patricia into the guest bathroom, but I lingered close enough to hear their heated whispers. You said they were documents, not blackmail material. Patricia's voice was strained. Keep your voice down, Dean hissed. I didn't know Vega would send his men so soon. Where are the flash drives? Where you told me to put them? All of them? Even the backup? Yes, Dean. I did exactly what you said. There was a pause. These guys aren't who I normally deal with, Dean said, his voice tight with fear. Vega sent them because Martinez is missing. Missing? What does that mean? It means we're screwed unless we give them everything right now. Their voices lowered further, but I'd heard enough. This wasn't just about money laundering. Dean was caught between rival criminal organizations, and he'd dragged his sister's family into the crossfire. I made my way back to the living room where Robert was engaged in tense conversation with Victor. Both men looked up when I entered. Your daughter-in-law has quite the talent for accounting, Victor said to me, his eyes cold. Creative, even. My blood ran cold. He knew about Patricia's involvement, which meant this wasn't just about retrieving documents, it was about silencing everyone who knew about them. Dean and Patricia returned. Dean was attempting confidence, but the sweat on his brow betrayed him. Look, Victor, there's been a misunderstanding. I have everything Vega wants. Patricia was just keeping it safe for me. A family affair? Victor nodded. How touching. He checked his watch. Unfortunately, Mr. Vega's patience is running thin. Where are the drives? Patricia stepped forward. I'll get them. They're upstairs. Victor's silent partner shifted, hand moving to his jacket. And the copies? Dean's face went white. What copies? Don't insult me, Victor said softly. No one in your position would keep only one set of insurance. I caught Robert's eye. His face showed confusion, then dawning horror as he began to understand his wife's true involvement. Patricia swallowed hard. There are no copies. Just the originals. Even I could tell she was lying. The tension in the room was suffocating. Victor's smile didn't waver, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes at Patricia's obvious lie. Mrs. Adams, he said, using Patricia's maiden name with deliberate emphasis. Perhaps I haven't made the situation clear. We're not leaving without everything originals and copies. Dean stepped between Victor and his sister. Look, I told you, there are no copies. Just the drives upstairs. Patricia will get them. And we'll be done. Victor checked his phone again. Mr. Vega is 10 minutes away. He'd prefer this to be resolved before he arrives. My heart rate spiked. Another player entering this dangerous game was the last thing we needed. Patricia moved toward the stairs, but Victor held up his hand. Not yet. First, we wait for the children to go to bed. It's only 7:30, Robert objected. Victor's companion, silent until now, finally spoke. Then read them a story, sing them a lullaby. I don't care. But they go to bed now. I heard what remained unspoken. They didn't want the children to witness what might happen next. Through the living room window, I noticed a third car pulling up behind the others. More of Vega's men, undoubtedly. Dean saw it too, and visibly paled. That's not Vega's car, he whispered. Victor moved to the window, cursing under his breath. Gomez's people. He turned to Dean, fury in his eyes. You've been playing both sides? No, I don't know why they're here. Dean's panic seemed genuine. I used the distraction to pull out my phone, shielding it with my body as I texted Harold. Emergency. Come now. Bring friends. I added Robert's address again for good measure. Victor spun around just as I tucked the phone away. What are you doing? Checking the time, I lied. My medication schedule is very strict. He crossed the room in 2 strides, hand outstretched. Give me the phone. I reluctantly handed it over, praying he wouldn't check the sent messages. Victor pocketed my phone without looking at it, his attention returning to Dean. If Gomez's people are here, it means you've been selling the same information twice. I swear, Victor, I didn't. Victor cut him off with a sharp gesture. His partner had moved to the window, hand inside his jacket. New plan, Victor announced. We get everything now. Where are the drives? Patricia hesitated. There. In the children's rooms. I thought they'd be safe there. Who would look in a toy box? The calculated risk she'd taken using her own children as unwitting shields for criminal evidence made me sick. Victor's eyes hardened. How touching. Using your children for protection. He turned to his partner. Marco, go with Mrs. Adams to collect the drives. All of them. Marco nodded, gesturing for Patricia to lead the way. Robert moved to follow, but Victor stepped in front of him. Just the lady. You stay here. Those are my children's rooms, Robert insisted. And that's exactly why you're staying here, Victor replied smoothly. Insurance. As Patricia and Marco disappeared upstairs, Dean sank onto the sofa, head in his hands. This wasn't supposed to happen, he muttered. Vega promised me protection. Protection from what? I asked, unable to contain myself. Dean looked up, seeming to notice me for the first time. From people like Gomez. From people who want the information I have. Robert's fists clenched. What information could possibly be worth putting my family in danger? Before Dean could answer, we heard footsteps on the stairs. Patricia returned with Marco close behind her, holding 3 flash drives. These were in Emily's stuffed elephant, Max's Lego box, and Lily's bookshelf, Marco reported, handing the drives to Victor. Victor examined them. And the copies? There are no copies, Patricia insisted, but her voice wavered. Mrs. Adams, Victor said softly, you have a beautiful family. It would be a shame if anything happened to them because you couldn't be honest with me. It was the most explicit threat yet. Patricia visibly flinched. I'd had enough of being quiet. 70 years of life had taught me some things about bullies, and while these were more dangerous than most, they operated on the same principles. Young man, I said, drawing myself up to my full 5'4" height. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. And neither are you. Kill an old woman, you're a monster. These men don't look like monsters to me. Victor's eyes narrowed as he assessed me. Mrs. Thompson, I admire your courage, but this doesn't concern you. When you threaten my family, it concerns me very much. Victor studied me a moment longer, then turned back to Patricia. 1 hour. You have 1 hour to produce every copy, or I start making phone calls that will ensure your family never sleeps peacefully again. Outside, car doors slammed as more of Gomez's men arrived. We were running out of time and options. The next few minutes were chaos as Victor and Marco argued about Gomez's men outside. Dean kept insisting he had nothing to do with them, while Patricia stood frozen, her face ashen. Robert used the distraction to pull me aside. Mom, take the kids to the basement, he whispered urgently. I've got a plan, but I need time. I nodded, moving casually toward the hallway that led to the basement stairs. I'm going to check on my grandchildren, I announced loudly enough for Victor to hear. Make sure they're doing their homework. Victor glanced at me, distracted by whatever he was seeing through the window blinds. Fine. But no one leaves this house. The basement playroom had been converted from an old storage area when Lily was born. Robert had installed bright lighting, colorful rugs, and built-in shelving for toys and games. Now, it looked like a bunker to me, one exit to the main house, one storm door to the backyard that was likely being watched. The children looked up as I descended the stairs. Lily had positioned herself protectively between her younger siblings and the doorway. Smart girl. Grandma, she whispered. What's happening? Those men aren't really Dad's business associates, are they? I sat on the small sofa, gathering them close. No, they're not. But your dad and I are handling it. Are they going to hurt us? Max asked, his lower lip trembling. No, I said with more confidence than I felt. But we need to be very quiet and very brave right now. Emma crawled onto my lap, something she rarely did anymore at 7 years old. Like in the fire drills at school? Exactly like that, I confirmed. We need an emergency plan. Lily's eyes were too knowing for a 12-year-old. This is about Uncle Dean, isn't it? I heard Mom and Dad fighting about him hiding things here. I hesitated, then decided that limited truth was better than comforting lies. Yes. Your uncle got into some trouble, and these men are looking for something he left here. The flash drives, Lily said. I stared at her in shock. How do you know about those? She bit her lip. I saw Mom hiding them. She thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. She reached into her sock and pulled out a small flash drive. I made copies, just of some files. I was going to tell Dad, but then those men came, and I got scared. I stared at the tiny device in her palm. This 12-year-old girl had done what none of the adults thought to do, create leverage. Lily, I said carefully, what made you think to copy the files? I heard Mom and Uncle Dean talking last week. They sounded scared. So I thought maybe Dad should know what was on them, just in case. A sense of both pride and sadness washed over me. Pride at her intelligence and instinct to protect her family. Sadness that she'd been forced into such a position. Does your mother know you did this? Lily shook her head. No one does. I was going to tell Dad tonight, but then those men arrived early. Before I could respond, the basement door opened. Patricia descended the stairs, her face tear-streaked but composed. Mom, she said to me, Robert wants you upstairs. I squeezed Lily's hand, silently communicating that she should keep the flash drive hidden. Are you staying with the children? Patricia nodded. For now. I kissed each child on the forehead before heading upstairs. Robert was waiting in the hallway. His face grim. I called the police, he whispered. But the line went dead before I could give them our address. They're monitoring the phones, I concluded. More than that, Victor has a police scanner. He heard the dispatch. They know I called. Harold is on his way, I assured him. With friends. We need more time. Robert ran a hand through his hair. And I need to talk to Patricia. Alone. She's with the children. And Robert. I hesitated, then continued. There's more to this than Dean hiding documents. Patricia is deeply involved. His face hardened. I know. I've suspected for weeks. That's why he cut himself off as footsteps approached. Dean appeared from the living room, a fresh bruise forming on his cheek. They gave us 1 hour, he said. Victor wants all copies. If we don't deliver, he trailed off, the implication clear. Robert grabbed his brother-in-law by the collar, pushing him against the wall. You did this, he hissed. You brought this danger to my children. Dean didn't resist. I never meant for this to happen. I just needed somewhere safe to store the information until I could leverage it. Leverage it? Robert's voice rose dangerously. You're blackmailing these people? Keep your voice down, Dean pleaded. It's not blackmail, it's insurance. These organizations move billions in drug money. I just skimmed a little off each transaction and documented the whole operation. If anything happened to me, the evidence would go public. And you stored this evidence in my children's bedrooms? Robert's grip tightened. I placed a hand on my son's arm. Robert, this isn't helping. He released Dean reluctantly. Get Patricia. We need to talk. Now. Dean hesitated. Victor won't like. I don't care what Victor likes. Get my wife. While Dean fetched Patricia, I updated Robert on Lily's secret copies. She's 12, he whispered in disbelief. She shouldn't be involved in this. But she is, I replied. And her copies might be our only leverage. Patricia appeared from the basement, closing the door behind her. Her eyes darted between Robert and me. The children are scared, she said. They should be, Robert replied coldly. Their mother used their bedrooms to hide evidence of money laundering. Patricia flinched. Robert, I can explain. Save it. He cut her off. I've been working with the FBI for the past 3 weeks, Patricia. They approached me after flagging suspicious transactions in our joint account. Patricia's face drained of color. What? You've been gathering evidence against your brother and his associates? Yes. Robert's voice was ice. I never dreamed you were actively involved. I thought you were just an unwitting accomplice. The betrayal in the room was palpable. Patricia's criminal activities, Robert's secret investigation. A family fracturing under the weight of lies. I did it for Dean, Patricia whispered. He's my only family. We're your family, Robert exploded. Me and the children. We should have come first. A crash from upstairs interrupted their confrontation. Victor appeared at the top of the stairs. Family drama will have to wait. He called down. Gomez's men are moving closer. We're accelerating our timeline. The copies. Now, Victor descended the stairs, his calm facade cracking slightly at the edges. Whatever he'd seen outside had rattled him. 45 minutes left on your deadline, he announced. But circumstances have changed. Gomez's men are preparing to move in. So, we need to expedite things. Robert stepped forward. Look, we don't have any other copies. You have the originals now. Don't lie to me, Victor snapped. Dean kept backups. He always does. And given Mrs. Adams' involvement, he nodded toward Patricia. I'm certain there are copies somewhere. My phone buzzed in Victor's pocket. He pulled it out, frowning at the screen. Harold, he read. Is that your knight in shining armor, Mrs. Thompson? He tossed the phone to me. Tell him everything's fine. I caught the phone, seeing Harold's text. 5 minutes away. 4 of us. Police scanners active. With steady hands, I typed, Fine. Visiting family. Sorry to bother you. Then, remembering our code, I added, P.S. Book still overdue. It would tell Harold to stand by but not approach yet. Satisfied? I handed the phone back to Victor. He pocketed it without checking my response, his attention returning to Patricia. The copies. Mrs. Adams. Where are they? Patricia looked desperately at Dean, who remained unusually silent. There's a safe in my office, Robert volunteered suddenly. Patricia doesn't know the combination, but I do. If Dean made copies, that's where she would have put them. Victor considered this. Show me. As Robert led Victor to his home office, Dean collapsed onto the bottom stair, head in his hands. This wasn't supposed to happen, he muttered. Vega promised me protection. Why are Gomez's men here? I demanded. What did you do? Dean looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. I played both sides. Gave Gomez enough information to hurt Vega, gave Vega enough to damage Gomez. As long as they were fighting each other, they weren't looking at me. And now they're both here, Patricia said bitterly. Looking for you. No, Dean shook his head. Looking for the complete files. Whoever gets them first controls the entire East Coast operation. And you thought storing this information in a family home was wise? I couldn't keep the disgust from my voice. It was the last place they'd look, Dean defended weakly. And I didn't store everything here, just the encryption keys and account numbers. Useless without the algorithm, which is elsewhere. A realization struck me. The copies Victor's demanding, they're not just duplicates, are they? They're missing pieces of the puzzle. Dean nodded reluctantly. Without all three components, the drives, the backup copies, and the algorithm, the information is useless. And the algorithm? I pressed. Where is it? Safe, Dean muttered. For now. Patricia paced the hallway. We need to get the children out of here. Before Vega arrives. No one's going anywhere until I have what I came for. Victor had returned with Robert, whose expression was unreadable. The safe was empty, Victor reported. Your husband seems to be missing some backup files he claims were inside. Patricia looked genuinely surprised. What? Robert, you said? I moved them, Robert interrupted. After the FBI contacted me, I secured all the evidence I could find. You what? Patricia's voice rose in disbelief. I've been building a case, Patricia, against Dean and his associates. I found the flash drives 2 weeks ago, made my own copies, and put them back exactly as I found them. Dean lunged at Robert, but Victor's companion Marco appeared from the living room and restrained him effortlessly. Where are they? Dean demanded. Do you have any idea what you've done? Saved evidence of your crimes, Robert replied coldly. The FBI has copies of everything. Victor's expression darkened dangerously. Mr. Adams, I highly suggest you retrieve those copies immediately. I can't, Robert said simply. They're in an FBI evidence locker by now. Victor pulled a gun from inside his jacket, pointing it casually at Robert. Then you've just made yourself expendable. No, Patricia stepped between them. He's lying. The copies are here, in the house. I have them. Victor raised an eyebrow. Where? In our bedroom. Hidden in my jewelry box. Patricia's voice shook. I'll get them. Marco followed Patricia upstairs while Victor kept his gun trained on Robert. Dean remained silent, his expression unreadable. I caught Robert's eye, trying to communicate silently. Was he bluffing about the FBI? Had Patricia just sacrificed herself to save him? The tension in the small hallway was suffocating. You're making a mistake, I told Victor calmly. If Robert contacted the FBI, they'll be watching this house. Then we'll be gone before they arrive, Victor replied. With everything we came for. Marco returned with Patricia, who clutched a small flash drive in her trembling hand. This is the last copy, she said. I swear. Victor took it, examining it carefully before pocketing it alongside the others. For your family's sake, I hope you're telling the truth. A noise outside drew everyone's attention, car doors closing, footsteps on gravel. Gomez's men are getting closer, Marco warned. Or the FBI, Robert suggested. Or my friend Harold, I added. With enough retired police officers to cause serious problems for everyone involved. Victor's composure finally cracked. Enough! We're leaving. With him. He pointed at Dean. Mr. Vega will want a personal conversation about loyalty. Dean paled. You can't. I can and will, Victor cut him off. The only question is whether anyone else joins you for that conversation. That depends entirely on whether these are truly all the copies. I saw my opening and took it. There's one more copy, I said. Insurance, as Dean would call it. All eyes turned to me. Mom, no, Robert warned. Where? Victor demanded. First, I want your word that my family will be left alone. Permanently. Victor laughed humorlessly. You're hardly in a position to negotiate, Mrs. Thompson. Actually, I am, I countered. Because the copy I'm talking about isn't just a duplicate, it's the missing piece. The algorithm Dean mentioned. Dean stared at me in confusion. What? How do you? Lily showed me. I bluffed, praying Lily's copy contained something useful. Smart girl, my granddaughter. Figured out what her uncle was hiding and made her own contingency plan. Victor studied me, trying to determine if I was bluffing. If you're lying, I'm not, I assured him. But you don't get the algorithm unless my family walks away from this. All of them. Including Dean? Victor asked, skeptically. I hesitated, looking at the man who'd endangered my entire family. No. Dean made his choices. Dean's face contorted with anger. You can't. She can. Patricia interrupted, her voice suddenly firm. And she should. You brought this on yourself, Dean. On all of us. Victor considered for a long moment, then nodded. Fine. The algorithm for your family's safety. But I need it now. I need assurances first, I insisted. And my family needs to be safely away from here before Gomez's men or Vega arrives. You don't make demands, Victor began. But a sudden noise from outside interrupted him, the unmistakable sound of a police siren, quickly silenced but close. Marco looked at Victor questioningly. Take the back door, Victor instructed. Check the perimeter. As Marco disappeared, I typed quickly on my phone, now, and hit send to Harold. The room fell into tense silence after Marco left, broken only by the sound of Patricia's shaky breathing. Victor kept his gun trained on Dean but glanced repeatedly toward the windows. Time's running out, I said calmly. Whatever's happening outside will only get worse. Let my family go, and I'll give you the algorithm. Victor's jaw tightened. Show me the algorithm first. Not until my family is safe. Mom, Robert started. Don't. It's okay, Robert, I interrupted. Take Patricia and the children through the storm cellar door. Harold is waiting. Victor's eyes narrowed. No one is going anywhere until I have what I came for. Then we're at an impasse, I replied, because I'm not giving you anything until they're gone. The standoff might have continued indefinitely, if not for the basement door creaking open. All heads turned to see Lily standing there, pale but determined. Grandma? Her voice was small but steady. Is everything okay? Victor swung his gun toward her before I could react. Get back downstairs, he ordered. I'd never felt such pure rage as I did seeing a weapon pointed at my granddaughter. Lower your gun, I said, my voice deadly quiet. Now, to my surprise, Victor complied, perhaps recognizing he'd crossed a line even he wouldn't defend. Lily remained in the doorway. I have what they want, she said. The flash drive with the algorithm. Lily, no. Patricia gasped. It's okay, Mom. Lily replied with a maturity beyond her years. I copied everything when I saw you hiding the drives. I know what's on them. Victor's expression shifted from frustration to calculation. Bring it here, girl. No, Lily stood her ground. Not until you let my brother and sister leave with my dad. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing, my 12-year-old granddaughter negotiating with armed criminals. Pride and terror warred within me. Victor laughed humorlessly. You've got guts, kid. Fine. The younger children can go with their father. But your mother and grandmother stay. Robert looked to me questioningly. I nodded slightly. Half a family saved was better than none. Go, Patricia urged Robert. Take them out through the storm cellar. Victor gestured with his gun. Quickly. Robert hesitated for only a moment before disappearing into the basement. The sounds of hushed voices and small feet on stairs filtered up, then the distant creak of the storm cellar door. Now, Victor turned back to Lily. The drive. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out the small flash drive she'd shown me earlier. It's not just the algorithm, she said. It's everything. All the accounts. All the names. I figured out the encryption myself. Dean made a strangled noise. That's not possible. The encryption is military grade. Lily fixed him with a cold stare I'd never seen on her young face. I've been in coding club since I was 8, Uncle Dean. And you used Mom's birthday as your password for everything. If the situation hadn't been so dire, I might have laughed at Dean's expression of disbelief. Victor held out his hand. Give it to me. First, let my mom and grandma go, Lily insisted. That wasn't our deal. I'm changing the deal, Lily replied with remarkable poise. Or I can destroy this right now. She held the drive over a nearby vase of water. Victor's finger tightened on the trigger of his gun. Don't be stupid, girl. I'm not the one pointing guns at children, Lily retorted. I had never been more terrified or more proud. My granddaughter was magnificent and in mortal danger. Victor, I said calmly, you're a businessman. This is a business transaction. The drive for our safety. Simple. Victor's eyes darted to the window again as another car pulled up outside. Fine, he snapped. You two can go with the others. But Dean stays. And I get the drive first. Lily looked to me for guidance. I nodded slightly, knowing we had no better option. She approached Victor slowly. The flash drive extended in her hand. Just as his fingers closed around it, the front and back doors burst open simultaneously. Police! Hands up! Multiple voices shouted as officers in tactical gear flooded in from both entrances. Victor lunged for Lily, but I was faster. Pulling her behind me as Harold, my 72-year-old neighbor and former police lieutenant, tackled Victor to the ground with surprising agility. The next few minutes were chaos officers securing Victor and Dean, Patricia sobbing in relief, Lily clinging to me. I scanned the faces, recognizing several of Harold's poker buddies among the officers. Not real police, Harold explained quietly as he handcuffed Victor with his own retired officer cuffs. Just some old dogs who know how to bark convincingly. But I did call some actual former colleagues who were on their way. Through the window, I could see Robert with Max and Emma safely behind a police barricade that had formed at the end of the driveway. Gomez's men were nowhere to be seen, likely scattered when the sirens started. Mom, Robert called, relief evident in his voice when he spotted me through the window. I guided Lily toward the door, eager to reunite our family, but a commotion behind us made me turn back. Marco had reappeared from wherever he'd been hiding and had Patricia in a chokehold, a gun pressed to her temple. Nobody moves, he shouted, or she dies. The retired officers froze, their mock raid suddenly a very real hostage situation. The drives, Marco demanded. All of them. Now. Harold looked to me, his expression grim. This was no longer a bluff. They're in Victor's pocket, I said, along with the one Lily just gave him. Marco backed toward Victor, keeping Patricia as a shield. Toss them over, he ordered Harold. Slowly, Harold retrieved the flash drives from Victor's jacket and slid them across the floor. Marco scooped them up one-handed, never loosening his grip on Patricia. Now we're leaving, he announced. Anyone follows, she dies. He began backing toward the kitchen and the rear exit, Patricia stumbling along with him. Wait, I called. Take me instead. Mom, no, Patricia gasped, despite the arm crushing her throat. An old woman is less trouble than a struggling mother, I reasoned. And you need someone who knows which drive has the algorithm. Marco hesitated, greed warring with practicality in his expression. How do I know you won't lie? Because I want my daughter-in-law to live, I replied simply. And I've lived a full life already. Patricia was shaking her head frantically, but Marco seemed to consider my offer. Fine, he said finally. Switch places. Slowly. I approached with my hands visible. As I reached them, Marco shoved Patricia forward and grabbed my arm, spinning me into the same chokehold. Patricia stumbled into Harold's steadying grasp. Mom, she cried out. It's okay, I assured her, even as the cold metal of Marco's gun pressed against my gray hair. Take care of them. As Marco backed me toward the kitchen door, I caught Harold's eye and gave a slight nod toward the window. Understanding flashed across his weathered face. You have 5 seconds before we come after you, Harold called to Marco. Make them count. Marco tightened his grip painfully and continued backing away. Just as we reached the kitchen, the lights went out, plunging the house into darkness. In the split second of Marco's confusion, I drove my elbow hard into his ribs, a move I'd learned in self-defense class after my husband died. His grip loosened just enough for me to duck and twist away. A gunshot rang out, deafening in the enclosed space. Something hot grazed my arm. I stumbled backward, falling against the kitchen counter as multiple footsteps thundered through the darkness. When the lights flickered back on, Marco was face down on the tile, Harold and 2 other retired officers restraining him. Real police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "Grandma!" Lily broke free from someone's grasp and ran to me. "You're bleeding." I looked down to see a thin line of red across my upper arm where Marco's bullet had grazed me. "Just a scratch," I assured her, pulling her close with my good arm. "Nothing that won't heal." As real police officers arrived and took control of the scene, our family reunited in the driveway, Robert holding Emma, Max clinging to Patricia, Lily refusing to leave my side even as paramedics bandaged my arm. In the chaos of statements and evidence collection, I didn't immediately notice Patricia's absence until Robert asked, "Where's Patricia?" We looked around the crowded scene of police cars and ambulances, but she was nowhere to be found. "She was just here," an officer said, giving her statement to Agent Jenkins. "Agent Jenkins?" Robert repeated. "I don't remember an Agent Jenkins." The officer pointed to a badge number in his notes. A real FBI agent checking the number confirmed no such agent existed in their database. Security footage later recovered from a neighbor's doorbell camera would show Patricia leaving voluntarily with an unidentified man in a suit, clutching what appeared to be one of the flash drives that had gone missing in the confusion. By then, it was too late. Patricia had disappeared into the night, leaving behind her family and a host of unanswered questions. The following hours blurred together in a haze of police statements, paramedic attention, and attempts to comfort 3 traumatized children. My scratch required 5 stitches, but I insisted on remaining present while Robert answered endless questions from police and FBI agents about Patricia's involvement and disappearance. "I don't understand," Robert kept saying. "She wouldn't just leave. She wouldn't abandon the children." But the evidence suggested otherwise. The security footage clearly showed Patricia walking calmly to a car with a man whose face remained hidden from the camera. No signs of coercion. No struggle. She had simply left. Dean was taken into custody, alternating between raging about betrayal and begging for protection from Vega and Gomez. Victor and Marco were arrested on multiple charges, from attempted kidnapping to assault with a deadly weapon. The flash drives, at least the ones recovered at the scene, were confiscated as evidence. By 2 a.m., we were finally released from questioning. The FBI arranged for a security detail at my apartment, where we would stay until Robert's house was cleared from being an active crime scene. "It's the least we can do," said the lead agent, a stern-faced woman named Rodriguez, "considering your family's cooperation." I didn't miss the slight emphasis on cooperation, implying Robert's weeks of working with them as an informant. My apartment wasn't designed for 5 people, but we made do. Robert taking the sofa, the boys on a blow-up mattress in my small office, Lily sharing my bed. None of us slept much that first night. The children kept waking with nightmares, and Robert paced the living room until dawn, his phone clutched in his hand, waiting for a call that never came. Morning brought coffee, pancakes, and the pretense of normalcy for the children's sake. Robert moved mechanically through the morning routine, helping the younger ones dress while checking his phone every few minutes. "She'll call," I assured him, though doubt gnawed at me. "She wouldn't leave them forever, wouldn't she?" Robert's voice was hollow. "I didn't think she'd launder money for her brother either, or hide criminal evidence in our children's rooms." Lily sat at my small kitchen table, pushing pancake pieces around her plate. "Is Mom in trouble?" she asked quietly. Robert and I exchanged glances. "We don't know, sweetheart," I answered when Robert seemed unable to find words. "But we're going to figure this out. Is she coming back?" The simple question hung in the air, impossible to answer honestly, yet too important to dismiss with platitudes. "I hope so," Robert finally said. "Very much." After breakfast, Agent Rodriguez arrived with updates. Patricia's credit cards remained unused. Her passport hadn't been flagged at any borders. Her phone was off or destroyed. She had effectively vanished. "We have reason to believe she may have fled with Santiago Vega," Rodriguez explained, while the children were occupied in another room. "He escaped the raid on his compound last night. Several of his associates were arrested, but Vega himself managed to slip away. That's impossible, Robert insisted. Patricia wouldn't. She barely knew Dean's connections. She was just helping her brother. Rodriguez's expression remained neutral. Mr. Adams, we have evidence suggesting your wife's involvement was far deeper than you realized. Bank transfers, meetings with known associates, encrypted communications dating back 18 months. Robert sank into a chair, the color draining from his face. 18 months? That's before Dean even came to us for help. It appears Dean came to you because Patricia was already involved, Rodriguez clarified gently. Not the other way around. The revelation hit Robert like a physical blow. She recruited him, he whispered. Not him, her. I placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying him as Rodriguez continued. We believe Patricia may have been Vega's accountant for some time. Dean's attempt to play both sides by selling information to Gomez threatened her position. Last night's confrontation forced her to choose her family or her other life. And she chose them, Robert concluded, his voice breaking. We don't know that for certain, Rodriguez cautioned. She may have been coerced after leaving the scene. We're still investigating, but the doubt had taken root, spreading like poison through our family's foundation. Could Patricia, the woman who baked birthday cakes shaped like dinosaurs, who volunteered at school functions, who cried at her children's recitals, really have been living a double life all along? After Rodriguez left, promising updates and continued protection, Robert disappeared into my small guest bathroom. I could hear muffled sobs through the door, but gave him privacy to grieve. The day crawled by, each hour bringing more questions than answers. The children watched too much television, jumped at unexpected noises, and kept asking when they could go home. I did my best to create a sense of security in my modest apartment, but the weight of Patricia's absence loomed over everything. As evening approached, a knock at the door sent Robert rushing to answer it, hope briefly lighting his exhausted face. But instead of Patricia, it was Claire, Patricia's younger sister, whom we rarely saw due to a long-standing rift between the siblings. I came as soon as I heard, Claire said, stepping into the apartment with a hesitant glance toward the children. Is it true? About Patricia? Robert nodded grimly, leading her to the kitchen where we could speak privately while the children remained absorbed in a movie. Claire's news shattered what little composure Robert had managed to rebuild throughout the day. Patricia called me, she admitted. About an hour ago. She wouldn't say where she was, just that she was safe and not coming back. What? Robert's voice rose, and I quickly closed the kitchen door to shield the children from the conversation. She said to tell you she was sorry, but this was always a possibility. She said you'd understand eventually. Claire twisted her hands anxiously. I asked about the kids, and she just said they were better off without her, that you would raise them well. Robert pressed his palms against his eyes. Did she say anything else? Anything about where she might be going? Claire hesitated. She mentioned warm weather, and that her Spanish was improving. That's all. It wasn't much, but it was enough to confirm our fears. Patricia had indeed fled with Vega, likely to South America or the Caribbean. Robert, I said gently, the children need to be told something. He nodded, his movements mechanical as the reality of single parenthood settled on his shoulders. What do I tell them? That their mother chose money laundering over them? We tell them that she's away, I suggested. That we don't know when she'll be back. But that they are safe and loved by the people who are here. That night, after Robert had broken the news as gently as possible to 3 devastated children, after tears had been shed and questions answered as honestly as we dared, after everyone had finally fallen into exhausted sleep, my phone buzzed with an encrypted email notification. The sender was anonymous, the message brief. Tell Robert I'm sorry. I didn't betray them. I'm working with the DEA as a confidential informant. Vega suspects nothing. I can't come home until the operation is complete. Months, maybe years. It's better if they believe I abandoned them. Safer. I love them. Always. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed, my finger hovering over the delete button. Was it true? Or a convenient lie to ease her conscience? More importantly, should I tell Robert? False hope could be crueler than harsh truth. But denying him this possibility seemed equally wrong. I saved the message to a secure folder and turned off my phone, the weight of this new secret keeping me awake until dawn. 1 week stretched into 2, then a month. Robert's house remained a crime scene far longer than expected, as investigators discovered additional evidence hidden throughout the property documentation of money laundering operations spanning 5 years, encrypted communications with international contacts, and connections to at least 3 different criminal organizations. News reports painted an increasingly complex picture of an international money laundering ring that had been broken wide open. Santiago Vega remained at large, but many of his associates had been arrested. Dean cooperated extensively with authorities in exchange for protective custody, his fear of Vega's retribution greater than his loyalty to former colleagues. Through it all, our makeshift family adjusted to our new reality in my apartment. Robert took leave from his accounting firm, focusing entirely on helping his children process their trauma. The school psychologist recommended maintaining routines, honest communication, and patience. Patience was hardest to come by. Robert alternated between anger, grief, and guilt, questioning how he could have missed signs of Patricia's double life, blaming himself for not protecting his family better. I should have confronted her directly, he would say during our late-night conversations after the children were asleep. Instead of going to the FBI first, maybe then she would have chosen us. Or maybe you and the children would be in even greater danger, I would counter. You made the best choice with the information you had. The children processed their mother's absence differently. Emma, at 7, created elaborate fantasy scenarios where Patricia was a secret agent on a mission who would return triumphantly. Max withdrew into video games and building increasingly complex Lego structures. And Lily, perceptive, brave Lily, watched over her siblings with a maturity no 12-year-old should have to develop. One evening, I found Lily alone on the small balcony of my apartment, staring at the city lights. "Mom's not coming back, is she?" she asked without turning. I joined her at the railing. "I don't know, sweetheart. Dad thinks she chose the money over us." Lily's voice was flat. "I heard him talking to you last night." "Your father is hurt and confused," I explained. "People say things they don't fully mean when they're in pain." Lily nodded, wise beyond her years. "I found more stuff, you know. Before everything happened, documents Mom didn't know I saw." My heart thumped painfully. "What kind of documents?" "Emails. Between Mom and someone called Handler. They talked about evidence and operations." Lily finally turned to face me. "I think Mom might have been working undercover, like with the police or something." The revelation stunned me. Had Patricia's cryptic email contained truth after all? "Did you tell your father about these emails?" Lily shook her head. "I was going to. But then everything happened so fast. And now." She trailed off. "Now, it would just give him hope." "And what if I'm wrong?" I wrapped an arm around her thin shoulders. "When did you get so wise, Lily Adams?" "When I had to," she answered simply. That night, after another security briefing with Agent Rodriguez, I made a decision. Patricia's message deserved consideration, especially in light of Lily's discovery. I showed Rodriguez the encrypted email, explaining my reluctance to share it with Robert without verification. "It's possible," Rodriguez admitted after examining the message. "We have multiple agencies working this case. DEA involvement wouldn't surprise me." "Can you find out?" I pressed. "For the children's sake, if nothing else." Rodriguez promised to investigate discreetly, warning it might take time due to the compartmentalized nature of confidential informant programs. Life settled into a new normal. Robert found a smaller house closer to my apartment, recognizing the children's need for both their own space and continued access to the stability I represented. Dean was sentenced to 15 years with the possibility of parole after 7. His cooperation with authorities earning him significant leniency. The trial of Victor and Marco made headlines briefly before public attention shifted to newer scandals. Patricia remained gone. No calls, no letters, not even to the children. Whatever her reasons, whether criminal flight or deep cover operation, she had severed all visible connections to her former life. 3 months after that fateful dinner, we gathered at my apartment for a Sunday meal, a tradition we'd maintained despite everything. Robert had begun smiling again occasionally. The children argued over trivial things like television shows instead of falling silent at the mention of their mother. small victories, but precious ones. As I set the table, my phone buzzed with a text from Rodriguez. Meeting tomorrow, 10 a.m. office. Bring R if possible. The cryptic message sent hope and anxiety spiraling through me. Had they verified Patricia's story? Or discovered evidence that would crush Robert's healing heart once more? That night, after the children were settled at their new home, I showed Robert the encrypted email and explained my investigation. You kept this from me for 3 months? His voice rose dangerously. I couldn't give you false hope, I explained. Not when you were barely holding together for the children. That wasn't your decision to make. Yes, it was, I countered firmly. I'm your mother, Robert. Sometimes protecting you means making hard choices. His anger deflated slightly. And now? Why tell me now? Because Agent Rodriguez wants to meet with us tomorrow. I think they may have information. Robert paced my living room, emotions warring across his face. If she's really undercover, all this time we've been thinking. We don't know anything yet, I cautioned. It could be unrelated. But we both felt the weight of possibility settling around us. The meeting the next morning brought clarity, though not the kind we'd expected. Patricia had indeed contacted the DEA 3 days after disappearing. She had offered information on Vega's operation in exchange for immunity from prosecution. The DEA had accepted her as a confidential informant, but she had not been working with them before fleeing. So the email was half true, I murmured. She did become an informant, but only after abandoning her family. We believe she's attempting to protect herself from both sides, Rodriguez explained. If Vega discovers her cooperation with authorities, her life is forfeit. If she returns to the U.S. without valuable intelligence, she faces significant prison time. Will she ever come back? Robert asked, his voice hollow. Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. That depends on how successful her intelligence gathering proves, and whether she survives the operation. We left the meeting with heavy hearts, the complicated truth somehow more painful than either complete betrayal or noble sacrifice would have been. Patricia had made choices that prioritized her own survival, then attempted to frame those choices as protection for her family. I need to tell the children something, Robert said as we walked to the car. Something more than Mom's gone. What will you say? He considered for a long moment. The truth, but gently. That their mother made mistakes, then tried to fix them in a way that means she can't come home right now. That we don't know if or when she'll return. And that they're loved, I added. By you, by me, by people who are present. That evening, we gathered the children for a family meeting. Robert explained Patricia's situation with remarkable composure, answering their questions honestly but age-appropriately. There were tears, especially from Emma, but also moments of unexpected grace. Mom always said actions have consequences, Lily observed quietly. I guess that applies to grown-ups too. As the weeks passed, our family slowly rebuilt itself around the Patricia-shaped hole in our lives. Robert enrolled in a support group for single parents. Max joined a youth soccer team. Emma started therapy with a kind woman who specialized in children's trauma. And Lily, my remarkable granddaughter, began coding classes at the community center, channeling her experience into learning more about cybersecurity. 6 months after Patricia's disappearance, we celebrated Thanksgiving at Robert's new house, smaller than the previous one, but feeling more like home with each passing day. As we gathered around the table, Robert looked at each face and smiled. I'd like to say something, he began. This year has been difficult. Doesn't begin to cover it. But looking around this table, I see strength. I see resilience. I see family. We're survivors, Lily added. That we are, I agreed. And whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Later that night, as I tucked Lily into bed in her new room walls, decorated with programming posters rather than the pop stars of her pre-trauma life, she asked the question that had lingered unspoken. Grandma, do you think things will ever be normal again? I sat on the edge of her bed, considering how to answer truthfully without destroying hope. No, I said finally. Not the normal we knew before, but we'll create a new normal, one day at a time. And it won't always hurt this much. She nodded, accepting this imperfect comfort. I'm glad you were at dinner that night, she whispered. When I passed you that note. So am I, my brave girl, I replied, stroking her hair. So am I. As I left her room, I glanced at my phone to find another encrypted message waiting, the first since Patricia's initial contact. Operation moving forward. Children safe? Tell Lily I found her encryption algorithm impressive. A born coder. I deleted the message without responding. Patricia had made her choice, and we had made ours to heal, to move forward, to build something new from the broken pieces of what came before. Some betrayals can never be fully repaired, but family, true family, finds ways to continue loving anyway. That was the lesson I hoped my grandchildren would carry forward. Not that trust is foolish, but that resilience is possible even when trust is broken. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after someone you loved betrayed your trust? How did you find the strength to move forward? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story of family resilience touched you, please like, subscribe, and share to help others find hope in difficult times. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes our greatest strength emerges from our deepest wounds. Until next time, this is Marlene Thompson, wishing you healing and peace.